Oh,
Live.
Mike Graham just said that there's a power surge at his office, so he's trying to get on. I know. He's trying to get on by
Well,
phone.
we're live.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have a quorum. Yes. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 29th, 2023 special meeting of the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy to the Montclair Times, the Star Ledger, and the Herald News. We are being broadcast live on Channel 34 Montclair TV and also remotely on YouTube. And Janice, would you please tell us what was in the special notice for
The
this meeting?
the purpose of today's meeting is for discussion by the commission of the Lackawanna Plaza, the revised Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan. That was what was in the notice.
Yes, thank you very much. So we'll begin with roll call. Janice, please.
Chair Bennett,
Present.
Vice Chair Heineman,
Here.
Mr. Rooney,
Here.
Mr. Reimnitz is not here. Mr. Graham? I think you must be muted, Mike, unless you left.
Well, he's having
Oh,
power issues.
okay. All right.
He was
so
here. We'll
right.
wait for him to come back on.
Well, Mr. Sweeney,
I'm present. I'm here.
Mr. Giuliano is excused. And we have Ms. Bauer.
I'm here.
And Mr. Connolly.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. So as Janice said, the purpose of this meeting is for the HPC to discuss comments for oh, we have somebody else on? I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, Michael, is that you?
No.
Who's Linda C? Linda
Cranston.
Cranston, okay, member of the public.
Oh, okay, sorry. So this is a meeting, we're holding a special meeting today, September 29th, which is defined as a meeting other than a regular meeting at which only business specified in the notice for the meeting may be considered. And that's what Janice has just identified. So we will begin with, before I go into the introduction, the next order of business is the roll call, not the roll call, public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment that is specific to the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment and the discussion for the historic preservation of that? Okay, hearing none, I'll close public comment and we'll go into our discussion. Before I begin the discussion, though, I would like to ask Janine her opinion. We will be making a series of recommendations today to the council. And the council meeting, as Janice has just told us, the public hearing is October 10th. So we have enough time to formulate a document. And how will that go procedurally? If, let's say I write it, what do we get the opinion, the approval of all the commission members as the consensus to send this document? I'd like to be sure in that.
Sure, you can do that. You mean because that document will essentially be the memorialization of whatever you decide today on the subject?
Yes, and we don't
Sure.
have time for in between for now in the next meeting.
Sure.
So we don't need okay, we don't need a meeting for that. Okay, thank you. So this afternoon, we will be discussing the revised Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan introduced on August 15th, 2023. This is consistent with NJSA 40:55B-1110, as stated on page 106 in the revised Lackawanna redevelopment plan, and in accordance with Montclair Ordinance 347-134, which states, under the heading of the powers and duties of the commission, to make recommendations to the Township Council on the historic preservation implications of any proposed or adopted zoning or development ordinance or proposed or adopted elements of the township's master plan. And under G, to advise and assist township officers, employees, boards, and other bodies, including those at the county, state, and federal levels, on all matters which have potential impact on the historic buildings, structures, objects, sites, or districts in the township, or on the physical character and ambiance of any portion of the township or region. Our discussion will generate a report which will be submitted to the Township Council as they prepare to vote on the revised Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan created by Phillips, Price, Gurel, Lahaney Hughes, LLC, and Smith and Marin Architects, and reintroduced on August 15th, 2023. Today, the Commission will discuss if the changes within the revised plan are consistent with the goals of the HP element of the master plan and the inherent purposes of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, Section 347-134, which are as follows. Number one, to safeguard the heritage of Montclair by preserving resources within the township, which reflect elements of its cultural, social, economic, and architectural history. Two, to encourage continued use of historic and/or noteworthy buildings, structures, objects, and sites, and to facilitate their appropriate reuse. Three, to maintain and develop an appropriate and harmonious setting for the historic and architecturally significant building structures, sites, and districts within the township. Next one is to stabilize and improve property values within the township, to foster civic pride in the history and architecture of the township, to encourage proper maintenance of and reinvestment in buildings and structures within the township, and to regulate appropriate alteration of historic sites as well as new construction with or near historic districts to ensure compatibility with the existing built environment and the master plan of Montclair. The revised Lackawanna redevelopment plan also states on page 42 that management of historic elements and all such work shall be performed in accordance with the rehabilitation guidelines of the United States Secretaries of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, and is consistent with NJSA 40:55D-1110 and section 347-142 of the Township Code. So thank you very much. I thought to facilitate this, what we would do is go through the points that Janice had authored on the revised plaza redevelopment plan dated, where is this? Sorry, I have a lot of papers here.
September 15th.
Yeah, September 15th. Thank you. I just have to find it.
That's right.
September 15th. There it is. Okay. September 15th. So the first point, which is L11B, Introduction Plan Overview, is also in our resolution dated January 7th, which was our first resolution that we wrote. And that is on page 4, which is called Plan Overview. So we had suggested to add the sentence, preservation and adaptive reuse of historic buildings, viewshed, and historic structures on the site is required. The design should incorporate the historic structures, features, and preserve the site's heritage as a railroad terminal and gateway to Montclair. And Janice, could you put up the map I sent to you about the historic designations of the site?
By the way, Michael Graham is here.
Well, while you're doing that, as a procedural matter, do we have to mark Janice's memo as an exhibit? The one
don't
we're
know.
referring to, the September 15th memo to the HPC.
You can do that if you like, but normally what happens with any land use board is that the documents that you already have on this is not an application, but on the matter before you, are not marked. The only items that are marked are ones that come in during the hearing or during the discussion.
Okay.
So it's up to you if you wanted to mark it, you could, but I would not require that.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you. Janice has just put up a map, which is in the current redevelopment plan. I believe it's on page 10. So I just wanted to, in relationship to the rest of the surrounding neighborhood. I'm sorry, Janice, there's something on top of this. It says customize your stage view, which is a box.
I don't know. What are you seeing? I
So
don't,
the
It says
features.
it's customized. It's a,
see.
maybe I can get rid of it. Hold on.
Yeah.
There you go. So, I don't know why.
I
All
don't
right,
know.
I got rid of it.
Mhm.
But this is a map, and what we are looking at the proposed site is the solid red is the historic site, which is locally, nationally, and state designated. And you can see the locally designated when you, so the red part with the rectangle that goes across, and then the white part is Grove Street. So to the right on that lavender is also locally designated. So it's a large site that is designated, and I think we're all familiar with what's there. I just wanted to have everybody just really look at it in relationship to what is also around it. So thank you, Janice. Thank you for putting that up. So the plan overview, which as I read before, is the introduction. It's the preservation and adaptive reuse of these buildings, the view shed and historic structures on the site. The design should incorporate the historic structures, features, and preserves the site's heritage as a railroad terminal and gateway to Montclair. And I know, Janice, you're actually have two roles here because you're helping us with the recording secretary today, but you're also the planner, the township planner, and you're the one that wrote this this report. So I understand that your we had asked for this to, the commission had asked that for this to be put in, and the response from the planning department is really a response that uh, has said that everything has been added except the provision that the term view shed is removed. And then you go on to describe what the view shed is. So I would like to ask our historic preservation consultant, is he still on, Tom?
I'm
Here
here.
you are.
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
Tom,
Yep.
if you could, before we have a conversation or discussion amongst the members, if you would define what view shed is and why it's and its importance to this project.
So before I do that, I have a question about the Lackawanna property. That's within the Bloomfield Avenue Historic District, yes? Or is it separate?
It is.
It's
It is.
within the district,
It's in it's the town center historic district.
the
Right,
town
it's a
center
local,
historic
it's a
district.
local historic district.
So then I think, Janice, your understanding of view shed is incorrect in what you have written.
I have to say, this came from Ira Smith, so this is what he wrote. I just consolidated the comments. So
Okay,
just to give you a little background.
So specifically the sentence that says a nomination report for Lackawanna Plaza does not define its view shed. And the reason why is because the view shed is the entire district. The entire district is a view shed. So it's not specific to one site, it's the whole entire district is a view shed. Anything we do in that district or any district impacts its view shed.
But there's no definition. That was, how do you define it?
The existing sightlines, it is
I
defined.
would point you to the Secretary of Interior standards then if you want a actual written definition of what a view shed is, but a view shed is sightlines.
Okay,
Sightlines and sightlines of the existing building, the buildings around the building, up and down the street. So anything that changes a view shed, if we're adding a building behind Lackawanna, that changes a view shed. If we're adding a building next to it, if we alter the building, if we put a building in front of it, that alters the view shed. And the
So
view shed
essentially,
is the entire
any,
district.
so any visible change will alter the view shed is what?
That's correct.
this- Okay,
So from the HPC standpoint, I would, I think our position should be that view shed should be restored and added to the amended plan in the introduction.
I agree with Jerry.
Who was that?
Do
Who
we-
said I agree?
that was my.
Mike,
Me, that was Mike.
Mike said it, Jerry
Yeah.
said, the other
Yeah,
proposal.
I support Jerry's conclusion there.
Okay. That's simple and straightforward. Got it.
Okay.
great. Thank you. And is there any other discussion on that or anyone disagree?
I do not disagree.
Okay,
No,
great.
I just want to comment that the word view shed is used in the response to other memos to the planning board, to us, and it's in the various other places. So, and it's a generally accepted concept, even though it may be vague.
Okay, thank you. Next item number 2 is bulk and yield, which is also on page 4 of the resolution that we authored in January. Replace what we requested was replace first sentence with separation of upper floors to permit narrower towers in order to preserve the view shed. Add the upper story setback of building A must be at the 3rd floor versus the 4th floor to reduce its perceived scale relative to the train station and the neighborhood buildings. And I'm sorry, Janice, I didn't send you a map of this. Is it easy for you to pull up a map of the buildings with the designation A, B, C, D? Or is that difficult? Only would make our discussion to have a visual easier, or we can go through. I don't know if you can. I should have asked you to do that.
I'll just, give me a minute and I'll pull.
Right,
it's in
the plan,
It's in
yeah.
the plan.
In the plan. On page 33.
Okay. Make sure I have the most recent version. Michael, I don't know why we keep losing you, but we do.
I've had 2 power
Oh,
surges
dear.
in the last few minutes, but I'm on my phone. This should solve all the problems. I hope.
Do you have
We'll
Do
see.
you have visuals? Can you see? Oh, we see you now.
I can see it. I can see the visual.
Okay.
They're very small on the phone, but I can
Yeah,
manage.
we
with
can
the
see
chair.
you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, what page 30? Oh,
33.
33. And
That's-
that's the printed version.
How about this one? Does this help? I'll just turn it. This is actually. Rotate view. Will this help?
There's nothing yet on the screen.
I don't, not on my screen. Oh, wait, share. Maybe I had, there we go. Okay.
There we go.
Yes, that's it. Great. Okay, so again, we see building A, we see the historic waiting room, which is, I would say in front of, to the side of it, but it's below building A, fronting on Lackawanna Plaza. So, what we had requested is separation of upper floors to prevent narrower towers in order to preserve the view shed. And we requested add upper story setback of building A must be at the third floor versus the fourth floor to reduce its perceived scale relative to the train station and the neighborhood buildings. And in the interim, above that dotted line, what is called the skylit passage, I believe, Janice, is what's in the plan, has been revealed. So a new first floor has been revealed, so that creates space between the wall, the actual wall of the historic waiting room and building A. So a new first floor setback requirement of 22 feet has been added between building A and the historic waiting room as shown in the attached, as shown. So the building in effect has been pushed back, correct, Janice? Pushed back.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
In addition, a new 8-foot setback requirement has been added for stories 2 to 4 for the building A facade that faces Bloomfield Avenue. So that is an additional 8-foot setback on the second and the fourth story.
Right.
So can I open that up for discussion? Does this fit,
I'll
is
just-
this fit what we've asked to,
I think it's
What we-
difficult to visualize. So I'm wondering what it's actually going to look like, considering that, you know, it's not like we're going to be walking next when a pedestrian is on the sidewalk, they're not directly next to the building. So it's difficult to determine the impact of the setback, and the height has not changed. It's still going to be 81 feet. So I'm not sure that the new design as described will accomplish maintaining the integrity, for lack of a better word, of the historic waiting room. I mean, we always talk about wanting to have any additions to a historic resource to be subordinate to that. This, you know, without question, is you know, going to be over. I don't know if it's without question, but it seems as designed still overwhelms the waiting room, which is the key building on this site. So that's my concern. And I don't know that we have drawings to show us otherwise, or that we have designs that show us how this could building A could be hidden to protect the historic waiting room.
I have a question for Janice. And the setback has been set at 22 feet. What was it previously?
I think we had a setback measured from Bloomfield Avenue, and it was not clear how far the building would be set back from the historic waiting room. So there was no clear number to that. So when we did this, we wanted to make sure that building A was no closer than 22 feet from the waiting room, which I think was the distance of that passageway. That's the width of the passageway. So we basically added something that wasn't there before because it was not clear. We thought this was much clearer.
So to be clear on this, was it a change in the plan or just added a different a definition that wasn't clear before?
It's both. I could tell you, hold on. Got the original plan here. The original plan here said building A must be 150 feet from the plaza. But again, we didn't define its relationship. So we just approached it from a different way. So originally it was 150 feet from Bloomfield Avenue, but there was no specific detail for its relationship to the historic waiting room. So that's what we tried to do. We tried to make it as measured from the historic waiting room to emphasize the separation that wasn't in the original plans. I think that's the best way I can answer your question, Jerry.
Okay, well, this is a follow-up question. Was it your view that 22 feet is going to be adequate to avoid the concern we had, that is the building dominating the historic waiting room? I don't have a sense. I asked the question because 22 didn't seem to be a clear number, but I view the separation as helpful to reduce the element of dominance. I'm only asking whether 22 is deemed adequate to reduce that dominance.
I think it's one component because we did push for the upper story setbacks
Okay.
by adding that, rather than making it a sheer building, we wanted to have that facade facing Bloomfield Avenue have a step back approach, which I think that the effect of step backs is it reduces the scale of the building. So that was why we put in the additional setback and the additional step backs facing Bloomfield Avenue to help address the concerns about it overwhelming the waiting room.
It's hard to picture it without any kind of you know, design, any kind of model, any kind of
It's not 3D.
Well,
yeah,
if
any kind of
you're-
3D,
you're
because, you
attending,
know, especially Janice, considering that it is already set the buildings themselves are so far away from the street that again, it's not like the Wellmont where you or the Seymour Street design where you're walking right next to it. Setbacks and stepbacks have a much greater effect than they would from this site that you can see, you know, clearly from either side of the street.
Right. I'm seeing how if we had in one of our presentations, what we showed here, that might help. I'm going to share again. So if you see this is one of the presentations that we made. It shows the effect of the setback. What you see here in the gray is the walkway, the covered walkway, which we are maintaining. So you see the building is set back 22 feet, and then we have the step backs as well.
I have to say, with this visual, it does still appear to be
Right.
overwhelmed by building A. I appreciate. I love the walkway remaining, and I do appreciate the addition of the setbacks and stepbacks. I just don't know that it's sufficient with respect to the waiting room.
And my question is, when does this date from? Does this date from the first
No,
It's,
this was not
July.
redevelopment, or is this the second
I
one?
think
second one.
The second one, okay. So when I asked whether the building A facade had been moved north, that it had, because previously it was flush up against the smaller building,
Right.
the
The waiting room.
office,
The waiting room.
the waiting
Waiting
room.
room.
Okay. So if it's moved back and you go up 8 floors and it's moved back 22 feet, is that footage then, does it appear elsewhere on the building? The footage that you've taken out of that building?
Mhm.
Has something else increased, like another facade? Has
No,
that
we-
increased in footage or in height
We
even?
didn't. No, nothing
Okay.
was increased.
Okay. Well, now you can really, yes, you can really see it. So, commissioners, may I ask your opinion as to how you feel about this? If this is sufficient? I know it's difficult to visualize. This makes it a little bit easier, to visualize. But the question is whether, what has been accomplished in this drawing is from the first reiteration, whether this is sufficient. Or is it still overwhelming the historic building?
My opinion is it's not sufficient and still overwhelms the historic waiting room.
Okay.
My opinions, Gerald Sweeney speaking, is
Yes.
that some of the setbacks and the separation of the step back and the setbacks are helpful. But looking at the model, the scale of the building A with its height and proximity to the historic waiting room still dominates and overwhelms it.
Mhm.
I can't say what the solution is, except that it appears that a further separation from the historic building, I don't know how much further, but further, and reducing the height of that building A would substantially improve the condition and reduce at least my personal perception of concern.
Could you repeat your last sentence, Jerry? Did
Yeah,
you
it's
say
only-
reduce the?
Yeah, no, I'm saying if two things were done, first, there'd be a greater separation between the historic building and building A. And I can't say how much greater, but I think it should be greater than 22 feet. And
Mhm.
second, reducing the height of building A. But if those two things were done, I think it would substantially diminish the sense of dominance of building A over the historic waiting room.
Okay. Would anyone else like to make an opinion, have an opinion?
Yeah, just to state that I generally agree that I don't think the 22-foot step back is significant to is enough to significantly mitigate the view shed concerns that we had.
Mhm.
I mean, that being said, I don't know if you could really mitigate that given the scale of the building. I mean, I think you would have to push it, reduce the height significantly. You'd have to push the setback, significantly, like closer to 40 or 50 feet. I don't know how feasible. I mean, that just doesn't seem feasible with the current proposal. So, I support the 22 feet. The only recommendation I would have, just looking at this rendering, would be to extend it along the face. I know this isn't the actual rendering; it's just massing. But looking at the massing, I don't know if that protrusion along the plaza where the setback is not extended, if that helps with the scale at all, just applying it to just the notch adjacent.
Right.
I don't think it does enough, and I would rather have that extended to a uniform plane than push the setback even farther back, cutting into the building. That's my only, recommendation, because I don't know how feasible further reductions are given what the proposal is.
Right. So what you're talking about, the uniform plane along the south side of the building, which you could see the stanchions across the front of it.
Yeah, because I think that kind of impacts the effectiveness of that 22-foot
Right.
setback, because then you almost get the impression that it's wrapping around the waiting room.
Right.
But again, this is just massing; it's not the architecture.
Right.
But this is all I can go by.
Right.
The building C does block the view shed from Bloomfield and Grove.
Hmm.
I mean, you don't have to go very far, before you see the entire ticketing office, but I
Oh,
think
well,
that,
yes, Steve, we'll get to building C in a minute, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just concentrate on
building A,
this building A,
Right.
please, okay? So any thoughts about building A then, Steve, and the historic waiting room? Are you in agreement with the other commissioners?
I'm in agreement with the other commissioners, yes. It should be step back further.
Okay, so step back and massing. Height. Tom, would you like to make a comment on this?
No, I'm gonna wait till the end. I think everything you were discussing about building A is on target.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next, number 3 is section 3F, historic features and structures. Identify the historic structures on the western and eastern parcel and illustrate in an appendix as follows. So we have the waiting room, the terminal shed, the steel stanchions, the horse trough, the reinforced concrete stairs, the lighting columns, the view shed, and the copper dome. And the response was that the revised redevelopment plan now includes an inventory with images of the site's historic features and structures, except for the view shed and copper dome, which are both excluded. The exclusion of the view shed is based on information provided earlier in this report. The exclusion of the copper dome is based on the absence of a historic preservation nomination report and designation for this element by an appropriate local, state, and/or federal authority. And when we had discussed this previously, the all the elements excluding the copper dome had been designated as, and I think we say that next. It's says shall, and the copper dome was should. So does
Mhm.
anyone should be included? So does anyone have strong thoughts on this, whether the copper dome should be included as part of the historic elements? Who said that?
Me. I think that
Okay.
the copper dome is not a part of it.
Okay,
Who is speaking?
Steve,
Okay.
Steve.
This is Gerald Sweeney speaking. I agree with Steve. I think the copper dome is not a part of it, but I think view shed has to be restored.
right.
Agreed.
Okay, so we're in agreement with copper dome, not a part, but view shed restored,
Shall. Yeah.
shall be restored. Okay. Any other further discussion on that? Any further discussion on that?
No.
No? Okay, moving along to number 4, section 3F. Historic features and structures. Description of historic features and structures shall contain the word shall be preserved rather than should, except for the copper dome with concrete columns on the eastern parcel to be described as should be preserved. And the response was all shoulds have been replaced with shall. This is in the revised plan, which sets more stringent standards for the redevelopment. The treatment for each historic element has been addressed individually, however, with some being preserved, some being rehabilitated, and one potentially under restored. Preserved and the other terms are specific standards under the aegis of the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties to which the HPC adheres. Each term has a specific meaning within the historic preservation discipline. As a point of fact, most of the historic elements in the current vision are remaining in place and could technically fall under the highest standard, which is preserved. Also of note, only 2 historic elements are being altered in a way that would place them under the next standard, rehabilitated. These two exceptions are the watering trough and the steel stanchions, with the former being relocated in their entirety and the latter being partly relocated to make room for the new supermarket footprint, which is Building A, which is up on the screen now. The terminal shed is a special case and probably belongs under the rehabilitation standard, which intuitively refers to the removal of non-historic elements, the glass bay fronts from the 1980s.
Right.
So, any discussion, or open it up for discussion about the elements, the preserved, the rehabilitated, and restored. I have a question. Where does it say about, oh, it says here about, this is exact, and on page 4 of the plan, it describes the structure, the element, and it references the image, to the images and what illustrates. So this is what I wasn't sure of. What are these are running under preserved and what is restored and which is rehabilitated? In the third paragraph here, it says the terminal shed is rehabilitated, falls under rehabilitation. But I just wasn't, it's not listed in the plan on page 4, the revised plan. So maybe that should be, a little bit more, brought out more emphasis put on what is actually preserved, what is rehabilitated, and what is restored. Does anyone else have
And
that?
relocated. I have a problem with the relocation of some of these features.
Right.
And I don't
Right.
understand why they need to be relocated. One is a water trough, right? That was being relocated.
Right.
Where is that and why does it need to be relocated?
Yes, and that is in C. In the memo, all historic structures and features shall be retained in their original location, and the response is CA above. So it doesn't,
Those are in conflict.
in this section, right,
And I don't understand why the steel stanchions have to be relocated. There was a supermarket there before which incorporated the stanchions.
Right.
right,
Why can't that happen again? I know we've been
Right.
talking about this for
I
a long
believe
time, but-
the stanchions are not part of the supermarket. They're part of the mall in front of the existing supermarket.
Right.
So it's not the supermarket, it's the mall.
but
Currently.
it's the idea of really relocating the stanchions. So what we're, are we saying that the stanchions should be incorporated within the building of the supermarket?
I think so. I think you're right.
Is it incorporated into the supermarket or just, they should just
To the
figure a way to
building.
incorporate them within the
No,
building, right, itself?
Right. Within the
Yeah,
building.
yeah.
I think we shouldn't even go that far. Just say they should remain where they are.
And then
Let
where they
them
are.
figure out how to deal with them.
Oh, okay.
I think you're
Remain
right.
in the original location.
In current locations.
And the other thing that it isn't defined is how many stanchions there are. There are, and how many, I mean, we've been asking that for a while.
Years.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to page
Has anybody,
4. What?
I'm sorry, Kathleen, has anybody documented the building? I mean, maybe that should happen before any work takes place.
Well-
So we know, have an accurate record of what's there before.
It's,
work.
I thought that was a requirement. Is that a requirement of the developer to do that? To document the
existing,
existing? Jen, do you know?
It's not in the redevelopment plan right now, no.
Well, that's a
Hmm.
good point,
We should add that.
right?
Absolutely. Add it, yes.
So documentation, oh, that's a very good point. Documentation of historic. The historic elements as are defined within the report already.
And not just through photographs.
right.
Right. And that information, I mean, especially with the stanchions, there was a lot of information that came out about the type of stanchion from the last go around. So that should be on file as well. All right, so what we're looking at then is the waiting room, the terminal shed, the steel stanchions, the horse trough, the reinforced concrete stairs, balustrade and railing, the lighting columns, the view shed, and omit the copper dome for documentation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So other comments on this section? No? Okay, so the B is, we had required, we had asked if during excavation, original train tracks are uncovered on either the east parcel or west parcel, they should be adaptively integrated into the plaza. The response is that this has been added.
Mhm.
All historic structures and features shall be retained in their original location. Um, the response to this is A, but we're saying that that should be added. Kept, maintained. And D, these features at times may be collectively referred to as the historic structures and features. The commission recommends that building C be eliminated to protect and enhance the view shed for Bloomfield Avenue to the historic waiting room. The main plaza and station plaza should be a single coherent plaza to protect the view shed and maintain the stanchions, horse trot, and train sheds in their original locations. At a minimum, the commission recommends that the base dimensions of building C be substantially reduced or the design of the building be otherwise altered so as not to interfere with the historic view shed to the waiting room and the identified historic structures and features. So, Steve, this is your time.
This is my topic, right?
Right.
From the massing, where is that?
Dennis, could you put that back up? That
The,
map that you had?
yeah, the massing, when you draw a line from the corner going past C, you do not see the entire waiting room. You just see a portion of it from the corner.
Right.
Maybe, they should work so you could at least see the waiting room when you're standing on the corner. But I think what we're talking about is getting rid of C or changing it a lot.
Right, and the
Yeah,
response is here, building, so from our understanding in prior conversations, building C is integral to the redeveloper's vision. So the revised plan introduces new language, adding an 18-foot setback at the 4th and 5th floors from the main plaza, encouraging a reduction in the footprint of building C for the purposes of minimizing its impact on sightlines to the waiting room for the public right of way. Janice, do you that map that you had up previously that had the massing on it? Can you put that back up on the screen, please?
Yep, I will.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
And Janice,
So-
where is this rendering from?
This was from one of the presentations that we made.
Presentations that planning made?
To the planning board.
Oh, no, it was a community, it wasn't to the planning board, it was to a community, at a community meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to whom, I meant from whom. Who's the author of the rendering?
Ira Smith.
Okay.
Are you ready for my
Okay.
comments?
Well, Steve, let's just
Well,
finish with
he's-
Steve's.
You see, the first 3 floors actually block the view shed. And they've reduced 4 and 5 set back. Well, why not do the first 3 floors also?
Okay.
You see how that works?
So what you're saying, it's too large in massing.
It intrudes, right?
So,
Okay. Jerry? Thank you, Steve.
yes, my view is that the base is too large
Mm-hmm.
and it can be tall, the building can be taller. That might make up for some of the lost space, but the building is, the base, the dimensions are too large. And the setback from Bloomfield Avenue, the setback, not the step back, the setback is not large enough to preserve any of the view. How that would be changed, you have to increase the step back, increase the setback, and but allow the building to be taller. The step backs on the upper floors are only increase the view shed for people in a helicopter or in a different building. So that doesn't really do anything for a view shed.
Right.
But increasing the setback from Bloomfield and reducing the base dimensions, but allowing it to be taller would be okay. This building is supposedly only 38 feet high. It appears to be the shortest or lowest elevation of all the buildings. But
I'm sure.
I'm sure I haven't compared.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it here though, but I think that's what
It
we've
looks
been reading.
massive here, yeah.
Right.
So those are my 2 points.
Mhm.
Increase the setback from Bloomfield and reduce the base dimensions of the building. But I also said that would allow the developer to increase the height of the building, because I don't believe height of this building is a problem, and I believe it could be expanded to make up for the space that's lost by the reduction of the base dimensions.
So in our report, we do, in our resolution, we do say the commission recommends that building C be eliminated to protect and enhance the view shed from Bloomfield Avenue to the historic waiting room. The main plaza and the station plaza should be a single coherent plaza in order to protect the view shed and maintain the stanchions, horse trough, and train sheds in their original location. At a minimum, the commission recommends that the base dimension of building C be substantially reduced or the design of the building be otherwise altered as to not interfere with the historic view shed to the waiting room building and the identified historic structures and features. That's what we
Okay.
said. And I'd like it to hear everybody's opinion, but I think that encompasses what both Steve and Jerry just said. But
Right.
Jason, what do you
Yeah, I agree with Jerry, that it's really the first 3 floors of the issue. Stepping it back doesn't do anything for the view shed, so
On the upper floors, right?
either increase the setback totally or push the building footprint back somehow. I mean, or my original thought when we were first discussing this and unifying the plazas, like why does this massing have to be up here in this new location? Why can't it be connected to building A and you have one larger court uh, recreational amenity space up front?
Mhm. Well, that goes along with the first sentence, which it
Yeah.
says that building C be eliminated.
Right.
Yeah, but I think that can be interpreted as just getting rid of it altogether and not shifting the massing back on top of where that central plaza area was, connected to building A.
But we can add that in a sentence. We could
Yeah.
add an additional sentence, which
Yeah.
could be shift massing. Um, do we
Yeah.
say another location or do you want to be
No.
specific?
I shift it back. I mean, I can envision a scenario where that plaza is partially covered by the building and you kind of have a breezeway connecting the 2 plazas. So you still have the massing on the floor, the 2nd through 5th floors, and then have it open at the ground level connecting the plazas.
Okay,
Could be.
so yes, so help me here with shift massing to create to create here it is, to create a single coherent plaza in order to protect the view shed and maintain the stanchions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Mike, are you still there? What have you?
I'm still here. Yeah, I thought Steve had an interesting idea of uh, moving the first 3 stories back a bit to give at least more of the view shed from the corner of Bloomfield and Grove. Whatever we can do to enhance the view shed, I'm in support of.
Okay.
Okay.
That would be either reducing the dimensions or
Yeah.
and or increasing the setback from Bloomfield.
Yeah, that's better said. I like that, Jerry.
Say
Okay.
that again, Jerry. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, that's either reducing the base dimensions and or increasing the setback from Bloomfield Avenue. But actually, it should be and increasing the setback from Bloomfield Avenue. In other words, what Steve is saying is, you already have a step back on the 4th and 5th floor. Well, you just cut back the whole lower level, which means you're either increasing the setback from Bloomfield and reducing the base dimensions.
Right.
We're saying the
Okay.
same thing, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Has everyone given their opinion? I think so. The next one deals with section ID content. Add to the well, this is to add to the second paragraph the historic designations, which include the town center historic district, the historic district expansions, and includes the structures in the New Jersey Register of Historic Places, the New Jersey Office of Historic Preservation, Historic Sites, inventory of 1980, the National Register of Historic Places inventory from 1973, and the fact that it was designated as a key building within the Town Center Historic District, 2003, and a key resource in the thematic listing of operating passenger railroad stations from 1977, and is identified in the New Jersey CRGIS map, which is what Janice had up at the first image she put up, And that's the online viewer of the New Jersey DEP, which is the Historic Preservation Office. So page 8 of the revised plan has been amended to state that as depicted in figure 4, the Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment areas within the township's town center district and the railroad terminal is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. So I'm curious why all the other designations were not included. I don't know.
Right.
And should we say that they should be included? That should be,
Yes.
State
Okay.
and local.
right. So include, is everyone in agreement with that? Yes? No? Yes.
Well, they're saying that is already in the national register. And we thought we'd like to see it in the state and local.
Well,
If
that's what
that's
I mean.
possible.
All the designations, yes,
Right.
should be included.
Right.
So we'll go back to requesting that be
Mhm.
be included. Okay, so section 1D1, ID1 site, include a graphic depiction of the plan area showing the historic site overlay on the entire site as shown in the NJ GIS online viewer of New Jersey SHPO, Historic Preservation Office, and the Town Center Historic District and Historic District expansions. So this has been added to the revised plan in figure 4, which is shown below. And that's the map that Janice has just
Okay.
put up.
Right.
So that's good. Access and circulation. Number 7, access and circulation. 3, D9, add an additional bullet of a meaningful pedestrian connection to Crane Park shall be provided. And the response is the northeast corner property on the Lackawanna block, which is due east of Crane Park, is not presently part of the redevelopment plan and is not owned by the redeveloper. And
Right.
it would be difficult to achieve the stated goal unless the adjacent owner was involved in the redevelopment process. The plan has been revised to include a pedestrian connection between the public plazas with the project and Crane Park by requiring a public passageway between the historic waiting room and Building A. So is that sufficient? The public passageway, the skylit passageway that was just uncovered? Or does anyone want to see additional pedestrian connection to the west?
Yeah, my
I thought that was a
concern
great
in
addition,
addition
but-
to that was they had I think they had delivery and loading in that area. So
Right.
I'd like the plan to include additional language requiring safe pedestrian ingress and egress
Right.
throughout the site to Crane Park.
Egress and well, also to focus on the terminal shed too. If that's going to be a loading, I think that if that's going to be a loading area, unloading and loading, what does that create? It doesn't create, does it?
That's incorrect. It's not a loading area. The loading area
Okay.
is internal. It's behind the supermarket. That will
Right.
be for pickup and, if somebody is picking up their groceries, how they do. I think it's intended that area would provide a place for people to park to pick up their groceries.
Okay, so the terminal shed facade would be remain uncovered. What is going in? What is that first floor going to be used for, Janice? Is that entrance into the supermarket, or where the terminal facade is now, and where it's the terminal shed, the facade is now covered by glass or plexiglass facades? Because I think they were individual stores. What is that? What is the concept there at that first level?
Well, at this point, we just know that that part of the building will be part of the supermarket.
Right.
Okay. So, so you don't know if that's will there be doors is it an entrance and an exit, or?
I can't answer that. We're not at site plan. I do know that the main entrance is fronting Bloomfield Avenue. That'll be where the main entrance is.
Okay. Thank you. So, does everyone feel that the skylit passageway is sufficient? Does that
Yeah, it's
fulfill
fine.
what?
I'm fine with
Okay.
that.
I agree. I think it's a great addition.
I'm fine with it.
And, number 8, the goals and objectives rather. Vision. The second sentence to read, the plan includes standards for high quality pedestrian oriented design while respecting the historic character of the original Lackawanna Railroad Terminal site, including Lackawanna Terminal waiting room and the additional features and structures of the entire plan. We believe this is a reasonable statement and achieved with the plan as revised. Okay, does anyone have any comments about that? No? So
No.
that's good. And goals and objectives, number 9. Replace, adaptively reuse historic elements into the redevelopment project, which has been,
Change was made.
yeah, the change was made. And the other one, which was recommended with required. Oh, that's down on bullet 8. Somehow we've got this, okay, so there were changes that we requested, which is replace reflect with complement, which has been made. And then replace recommend with required, which has been made. Okay, so that's good. Any comment on that?
No.
All right, number 11, bullet 2, number 11, development standards, C1 intent. So bullet 2, replace sentence with preserve historic waiting room and terminal train shed. Any new building bordering these structures shall be set back and separate to accentuate the terminal train shed and the waiting room building. So, oh, sorry, Janice, Tom got bumped off. Could you send him the link
I'm here.
again? Oh,
I'm
okay.
here. I'm
Sorry.
back already.
Okay. Well, that was quick. Sorry, so we're on number 11. I don't know when you left, Tom, but bullet 2, number 11. Let me just see, which is under development standards. Bullet 2, we recommended replace sentence with preserve the historic waiting room and terminal and train shed. Any new building bordering these structures shall be set back and separate to accentuate the terminal train shed and the waiting room building. And the response is more significantly addressed in section 3F, maintain and protect existing historic structures, including the historic station waiting room and the terminal shed. Encourage reuse of historic features, water trough, and the platform, canopies with their concrete roofs and support steel columns. Preserve all such elements in their current plan or relocation to preserve all such elements in their current location or relocate to other suitable locations on site as permitted in this plan. So that was the response, but we're now advocating that all the structures be all the elements be maintained in their current location. Correct? Is that what I heard before?
I believe that's what we said. I'm wondering with building C, is that feasible with the horse trough?
That's correct. The building C the horse trough is where building C is located, so.
Right. Okay, so,
So it has to be
Replace-
moved.
right. But, so, considering that, if building C, if the, we have to figure that out. So
I'm
if
on a
building
call.
C is reduced in massing,
But what if it's
If
shifted
building C-
north? What if
what's
it's
that?
shifted north, like you said? You suggested shifting it farther north, but that would
Right.
still affect the horse trough.
That would still affect the horse trough. So, should we say the possibility of reducing massing of C to improve the view shed may entail moving the horse trough? That's what we're saying, correct?
I
Right,
think
so maybe you
so.
wanna-
I mean, I mean, I imagine it would be impossible to make it a lobby water feature, but right, but I think that would probably be the most realistic um, outcome, right, Kathleen? Right, Chair?
I think so. So the possibility of reducing the massing of building C may entail
No, I
repositioning.
don't- I disagree with all of that. I think
Okay.
we should leave everything where it is. Let them figure out how to make this work.
Right, without redesigning it.
Okay, you know what? We are redesigning. That's fair.
Yeah,
And
you're
then,
right. We are. So
Okay, that's fair.
So we just say the horse trough should remain and redesign the building around. I mean, how?
I don't even think
No,
we should
I don't even-
mention anything about the building. I mean,
Right.
I personally think that the building C shouldn't be there. I personally think
Right.
building A shouldn't be there. I mean, this is a compromise, right? We're trying to, I mean, all of these proposed buildings are gonna affect the historic district and the view shed, no matter what. Right,
Mhm.
we're trying to compromise. I think the size, the scale, the massing, the shape of the buildings are too much for the site. I mean, this is a nationally registered site. I mean, you got to think about it as a park, right? This is like Mount Vernon, right? We're plopping a building right in front of Mount Vernon with Building C.
Right, right.
And the developer said that Building C is integral to his redeveloper's vision. Maybe he's not the right developer. These are huge buildings that they're proposing.
Uh,
I don't know.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry,
Jerry.
when Tom's done, I have a comment. Part of historic preservation presupposes and necessitates having a plan that allows economic incentives to preserve historic buildings. So certain things have to be allowed, otherwise you'll never be able to preserve the historic elements. You'll defeat all of the developers that may come in. I would say that as to the horse trough, it doesn't seem to be the most fundamental and important element of it. Allowing it to be relocated does not materially impact adversely the site, the plan, or the historic character of the site. So
But Building C does.
well, building C, as I indicated before, the building C, the base dimension should be reduced and the setback should be increased. That permits preservation of the view shed. And if you do that, I think we can tolerate, at least my personal view, I could tolerate moving the horse trough because it's not the most significant element of the site. What's significant is the trains, the train related materials, and not the horse trough. So my overall comment is there has to be preserving historic sites often requires some recognition that adjustments have to be made to make it economically viable. While you may be right, this is not the correct developer. I think we could accomplish all that we're trying to do by reducing the base dimensions and increasing the setback of C and allowing the relocation of the horse trough.
Do we have another opinion?
I agree that might ultimately be, but you know, at this point, we're talking about what we think should happen, and I think the horse trough there and how people were coming there and carrying.
Right. It shows a
You know,
transition.
that's where their horses were. What's that, Kathleen? Sorry, Chair.
It shows a transition between the
It
types of transportation.
shows a transition. Yes. Yeah, and it was integral to the site when it was built,
Right.
and so moving it is it's a significant ask by the developer. So if we're talking at this phase, how like what should happen with the site, I think it should remain in place. If the developer comes back and says this is the compromise that we all have to live with, then we have to make a determination then. But I think right now we should say no, it should stay where it's been for the last 100+ years.
So would that translate to every effort be made to preserve the horse trough in its original location, or the horse trough should remain its original position?
I think we just say it should remain. I think we should just say it should remain and let them come back and say we got to move it and justify it, right?
Right.
Right. Right. Okay. And Jerry, I do understand your point about this, but I think then the design, the developer and the design architect come back with how they're going to address it. But I do understand your point, and but these are the ground rules. So
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, Jerry. I do think you have a fair point too. Yeah.
I don't mind the way Michael's described it. It should, but not shall or must. So,
right.
so if you can address that, I think when we are dealing with a historic site with all of the elements that this site has spread around the whole site, there has to be some kind of accommodation. Otherwise, though, the site will be uneconomical for development, with the consequence that you're not going to be, or someone's not going to be able to maintain the historic character, and it will probably deteriorate. So, well, I've said my point, and I think, I think Mike's adjustment is consistent with mine. Make it a should and not shall for the trough.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So so the second sentence would read, the retention in place of historic features such as the illuminated masonry piers, the water horse trough, and steel stanchions, which support concrete canopies known as the butterfly sheds over the train platform, shall be applied. What does that mean?
I think you need to take the horse,
Retention of,
you got to take out horse water trough and do a separate sentence for that one. That it's-
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would do that. Take out a horse trough, put it in a different sentence.
Okay, and number 12, which is the plan consistency review, 4A1, include, which is page 6 of our resolution. We've recommended include reference to page 97, the HP element of the master plan, relevant preservation objectives. And then they're listed, which is preservation and protection of historic fabric.
Yeah, those have all been added to the redevelopment plan.
Right, and this has been added on pages 103 and 104. Thank you, Janice. So that's fine. Okay, so we've gone through what are the original resolution vis-a-vis the planning board's changes from the planning office. We've gone through that. And then Tom, you said you wanted to comment additionally after we've gone through this?
No, I think I said everything I needed to say in what I said in my last.
Good.
Okay. And that's important. All right. Are there any other issues that have come up? Is there, I know I've sent a lot of material, a lot of documentation. Is there anything in anybody else's reading through this that we need to address today?
I do
Mr.
want to have a
Sweeney?
general comment.
Sure.
Yes, I want to say that we want to thank the planning board for supporting the historic preservation in our memo. And we want to thank the township for doing it. This is in my view, a substantial improvement over the prior plan, but it still needs modification to achieve the overall historic preservation objective that is important to the township.
Okay, thank you. And anyone else?
No.
No? So that if there's nothing else, the only thing I have one question, because I was online, Janice, and you're here, so this is this is a question for you. I had asked about a 3D model, which we had originally, and whether or not the second plan, whether a 3D model would be produced. And you were the one that was conducting it. It was online. It wasn't at one of the workshops at the schools, and you answered in the affirmative. So I realize that with all these changes now, is there still the thought that there will be a 3D model that people can look at? Because I think that helps with just such as we had problems with imagining or envisioning how the building A was going to relate to the train train office, the smaller building, the original building. I think it's a good visual to have that. So I'm just wondering where is that? Is that anywhere in
We
the?
No, we don't have a 3D model for the revised plan. I think what we focused on, oh, there's somebody in. We focused on doing the exhibits, the scaling models that were part of our presentation to show the effect of the changes. So at this point, we didn't do another 3D model. They're very expensive. That's something, if his plan is approved, then the developer would do a 3D model showing exactly how they want to develop the property. We were just focusing on the changes.
Okay, and then the visual that you showed where we were able to look at the waiting room as opposed in relationship to the building A. Could you send that to me? Because I don't think I have that. That would be very
Okay.
helpful.
It's
You just the one that you showed.
yeah, that's
Okay.
one of our presentations. I'll send that over to
Yeah,
you.
it's not. I didn't know. I didn't see it in the plan. And so Mike Graham and Tom Conley got bumped off again, and Mike Graham has gotten
He's
Oh,
back
bad
on.
reception.
Tom's there.
Oh,
No,
It's
I'm
this
here.
mic.
I'm sorry. I'm just having some rough reception. Yeah.
okay. All right. So to wrap this up, Jerry made a final statement. Tom, you have nothing, you don't want to add anything else, correct? No?
Correct, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, and then how about Jason? I'm just gonna go down the line. Any other final comments?
No other comments.
Okay, Mr. Graham?
Only to say, I think some of the changes are encouraging, like the walkway between the that preserves more of the stanchions and connects one side. I guess it's the walkway next to the historic resource. I still think though there needs to be more fine tuning of this plan personally.
Hmm. Okay, and who else? Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, I agree with Mike in that the plan needs to be revised and see if we can get a 3D model.
Okay, well, we'll hope for that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for spending, almost 2 hours on a very rainy Friday afternoon. Thank you, Janice, for putting this all together.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Janine. May we wrap it up? Do you have any final comments for us as we go forward?
Nope,
No.
I'm good.
Okay. Is there somebody else on, Jeff?
Do we have to?
I also want to thank Janice for smiling through the whole meeting.
Yeah, that was impressive.
How
Janice,
can I survive?
you got a tough job. We do appreciate the tough
We
spot
do,
you're in.
Janice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jen.
Do we need to vote on
Okay,
anything,
so-
Chair? Do we have to vote on
I
what we
think we
discussed
should.
today? And then vote on you drafting or somebody drafting the report?
Great. So what would somebody want to make a motion? Help me here, Janine, make a motion to.
Well, someone,
Why don't we do that after we
someone can
make the
move.
report?
All right, someone
Okay,
can
go ahead.
move. Do I have the floor?
Yes, you do.
Yes, please.
Someone can move to designate Kathleen and Janice to write up the consensus on each of the items that required a consensus. Obviously, many of the items in the 915 memo the changes were made, but the motion would be to designate the chair and the planner to write up the consensus recommendations, and that would be distributed to the members as soon as it's written up.
Move.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'll second that.
All in favor? I'm sorry. Kathleen, you go ahead.
Actually, can I clarify one thing? The recommendation will go both to the planning board and to the township council. I believe this goes directly to the township council. Well, I'm not
I would-
sure, but I had that sense the township council was asking for our input on it directly.
Yeah, Jerry, our report for the planning board was required to go today. So this wouldn't impact the planning board. We said, I believe in that report, the planning board report, that we would, that the Historic Preservation Commission would be providing its own comments on the historic elements.
Okay.
So do we, all in favor? We do. Yes.
All in favor,
We have
yes,
done that.
of the motion?
Okay. Okay, the motion is
Aye.
passed. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Is there anything else we need to do, Janine? Or is that's it?
That's it.
All righty.
All right, thank you. So, how should we do this, Janice? Shall I should we write up, do you write it? Well, you and I can discuss it off camera, I guess,
Absolutely,
okay?
yeah.
All right. And then, so thank you again, everyone. And we'll send this out to you as soon as possible. And then everybody gets a chance to look at it before we send it on. Correct, Janine? That's how
Right.
we do this.
I'm gonna want to talk to Janice about how to do this without having a meeting
Right.
online, but yeah, that's what
You know
we're
what the
gonna do.
Yes.
planning board did?
We'll figure out how to do it.
Actually, because we didn't have the report written, well, we had a draft. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Do you think
So
so,
I-
Janice? I thought this was pretty similar. Maybe we could just add the comments the way Carmel did for the planning board reports.
I think-
Right?
I think maybe what we could do is take a second vote. Say, and basically, I think that vote should say what I heard today, which is that, you know, you appreciate the changes in the plan. There have been some significant changes, but that's not enough, and some of very important issues have not been addressed, which were discussed today. And that you recommend that the plan be further amended to address these comments. And then we take a vote on that. So we have a vote on the recommendation, and we also have we've already voted that Kathleen and I will draft up that report. So I think if we do that, Kathleen, Janine, maybe we have that covered because we've actually taken a vote and that's what the decision is.
I like that idea. I think that's excellent, and someone should move that. If you want me to restate it, I can, but I think it was stated very well. And then the execution of it is just the writing.
Right.
But then you have the vote that the plan is encouraging but needs further refinement.
Mhm.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Okay.
By Mike, who's second?
Second,
Second,
Jason? Okay.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
No.
I think that was clear.
yes.
Good.
Okay, good. All right, again, thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Aye.